Okay, so where are we at? Where are we starting at? Oh, I wanted to compliment you on something. Up here, I'll bring the mic in since the camera don't no more. I want to compliment you on something. Um, so you did the video, and I kind of agreed with the guy at first, the guy with the ponytail.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Can I? I think I'm hearing a little bit of an echo coming through.
Okay, let me turn down my headset a bit.
All right.
That'll prevent that.
All right. That should be fine.
How's that?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
Better? Okay. Okay, uh, so I watched that video, and you had taken a ton of notes, just like he said. He's like, you took an absurd amount of notes, right? And then you said, well, I expected you to pick apart his argument, and you didn't. And dude, I laughed so hard at that. And you had a bunch of people in the live stream. Can they all hear what's going on?
Yeah.
They were all just like doing their own thing. They're like off taking naps and stuff. It didn't make any sense. But I thought it was the funniest shit. It was like a total served moment, and he like didn't sit to humor that at all. He didn't think that was funny. But so what is the fast? I want to know what's the fascination with your fascination with following the agnostics versus atheists argument at all?
Well, it wasn't. It's not really interesting to me at all. I mean, it's. I
Okay.
really didn't pay attention to these kinds of debates before. It
Yeah.
just so happened that Steve McRae was
Hmm.
talking about it. He had. Okay, so he had he had a formal debate with the Duke, right?
Yeah.
And I happened to I happened to watch it, and
Hmm.
then I realized that actually I take the Duke's side over Steve's side.
Which was
And
the agnostic?
right, Steve
Yeah.
Steve likes to he likes to use the terminologies that are used in philosophy, and I don't really care about philosophy. I don't think it's very useful. Um, but I wasn't
Yeah.
originally going to
See
get
that.
even into it with him.
Yeah.
But then once I saw him debating with the Duke, and I saw that he was misunderstanding what the Duke was saying, that's when I figured that I had something to offer. And I saw that once I got home from work after watching the video, I saw that he was doing a stream, and I thought, hey, I could jump in there. And so that's when I decided to jump in the
Yeah.
first time,
Yeah.
because I hadn't really cared about the issue that much, and I still don't care that much. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it's a chance for me to get my name out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the beauty of a philosophy is it doesn't matter. You can be whatever you want. There's not really any doesn't have to be a whole lot behind it. You can be right and wrong at the same time. That's why I like that's why I like to rely on it. There's so many people that like live their own truth. What is a fact and what is your idea of a fact? Especially when it comes to philosophy and religion and things that were written thousands of years ago. But things that are obvious facts like fire is hot, boy is born a boy, um, those are things that you can cling to and you can build your rationalities around things we know that are true. We need the sun for light, so we want to take care of the sun or what we can because we need it. A bit too much of it causes cancer. But it's these are important things that you can only shape of yourself from a fact. If you live a lie, then you just utter chaos. And that's what brought me. 'Cause we were talking about the other day. That's what brought me over to the conservative side versus the history of the more liberal leaning
Yeah, so
on things.
why
But
don't you why don't you take me through that?
oh, the Young Turks and the Vox. And okay, so because you were talking to your buddy about the Young Turks, and I was like, I followed them too, and I always agreed with Cenk on you know, there wasn't a whole lot when we were growing up. We were in our teenage years. There wasn't a whole lot of people that were openly, uh, what would you call that, atheist,
Hmm.
or just not believing in any kind of. And the Young Turks had always pushed that, and so I could kind of relate with them on that. And I wasn't really, I didn't like I believe in the sun because I can see it. It's like that fact. There's a fact. There's no fact in the religion. So I thought they were pretty cool. And then I had found out the history of the name of the Young Turks with the Armenian genocide. They call him the Armenian genocide denier, and he has that
Yeah.
Armenian girl that's always like, let's do a real talk, but she won't do real talk on Armenian genocide. And then, after they were big Bernie supporters, and I was a big Bernie supporter. So Bernie, he did the Killer Mike interview, and he had a lot of prepared answers for him. But now I'm learning more about softball questions versus hardball questions. And so when you set someone up, all interviews are good if you set them up with softball questions. But when Bernie, when we watched the Democrat National Convention and Hillary beat Bernie, but Bernie had all the votes, they essentially stole it. And then that girl, there was a lawsuit, but the Bernie supporter lawsuit, where she had sued the DNC. One girl quits a DNC, this girl sues a DNC, and they wrote all these different things about how he had taken the money because apparently Obama had bankrupted the DNC like $12 million. So they were out of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so Hillary with the Clinton Foundation, she brings all this money in, and it's they're able to keep kind of moving. But Bernie didn't bring that in. So and I felt duped because Bernie should have been mad. He was going around saying they were debating. He was talking about what a terrible person she was, and after the DNC, the convention, he's like, "Oh, she'd do a better job than me." Obama says she'd be the best. How come she wasn't the best in 2008 when you were saying how bad she was? Then what's funny? Hillary was the one who brought up the birth certificate thing when they were debating. That wasn't a Trump thing. He didn't come up with that. He stole it from Hillary, and then he just ran with it. So for them to fight and hate each other, and then he's like, "Oh no, she'd do a better job." He could have got mad. I mean, people give you millions of dollars to say you were better than her.
I don't remember him saying that she would do a better job. After he lost the primary, after Sanders lost the primary,
he
had
didn't
to
say better.
endorse her.
He was like equal. Yeah, he had to because it was everybody who lost had to. So yeah, no, he endorsed her fully, but 5 minutes earlier she was at least subpar compared to him. When he was selling himself to get campaign donations, things like that. I get that they're good at teaming together. They stuck together to win because they don't like right now they tear each other apart. You got elections next year and they're fighting each other constantly, just like they did in 2016. So are they going to change? And on that subject, who are you thinking is going to be the best? As far as you got from Kamala Harris to Andrew Yang or obviously
I like Bernie Sanders right now.
Still a Bernie guy.
Favorite. Yeah.
Why?
Because he's the most liberal on fiscal issues.
What kind of which issues?
Fiscal issues about the economy, taxes and economic stuff and stuff, and so.
So, when you think taxes and economics, your taxes that you pay, your gas taxes, do you have potholes all over the place on your roads?
Maybe.
So you have old roads that have that tar going down them, and there's lines all over, in the middle of nowhere, and they don't get maintained. The ditches are all washed out, but they're steady building more highways.
Not in my area. I mean,
We have a lot of road issues. The problem with government intervention and anything like that is they always say they need more money. Your schools, they say the schools aren't doing well enough. Okay, we need more money. So we got to raise your land taxes. The roads need more repairs. Okay, well, let's raise the gas tax. I don't even know what the income tax is spent on. And that 8 or 9% that you get on every dollar you spend, I don't even know where that goes. No one says where it goes. Where's that 9% tax on the dollar you spend? Where's that go? Every $10 I spend, they get 90 cents. Where does it go? These are the things that I'm more of a libertarian like your buddy, but I try to get more into the tax debate because the government isn't run by businessmen for the most part. And a businessman can see there's no efficiency in this job. We need to change it. We need to contract people out like they do when they build the spaceships like NASA. They contract people out to do it for a cheaper price. But it's still kind of government thing. So this money getting spent, it's like when you go to the DMV. You go to the DMV?
Mm-hmm.
I assume you have a license. You know how terrible it is when you go there? You stand in these long lines and you don't fill out this paperwork right, you got to go back. And that's what the schools are like. That's what
hold
the
on,
post office is
hold
like.
on. Can you explain how did you switch though? I still don't know how you switched from being a
Because
Bernie supporter.
that I realized that the healthcare that they want can't can't pay for itself. Like Bernie is about, and when they start talking about socialism, democratic socialism. Started learning more about socialism. I had friends that were socialists. They still got pictures of Stalin on their wall, and Vladimir Lenin. And when we think socialism, that's 100% government control, but it's still greed. If it wasn't founded on greed, why would they come to your house and take your money with guns and kill you? Why is the millionaires
What?
evil? Socialism. We're talking about socialism.
Who,
Who's the
who's
bad
talking
guy?
about? Where are the guns? Where are the guns?
You're asking who has the guns to take? Okay, if you don't pay your land taxes, who takes your house?
What are you talking about?
If you don't pay your land taxes, this all goes back into taxes, to socialism, to how I switched from Bernie. Well, I started learning that the things he wants can't be done. He knows they can't be done, and he pushes them anyway.
Oh my goodness. Where can you send me those sources? How did you
Sources of what? Vladimir Lenin? Communism?
are you
Socialism?
saying that you were surprised to find out that I mean, because Bernie was running on democratic socialism right from the beginning, and he had a whole speech where he defined what he meant by that.
I know, and then I'm telling you, as I learned more, because he's lying about what democratic socialism is. He's lying about what socialism is. Communism. It's collectivism. Is Marxism. It's all the same. I know that now. Socialism is communism, but they don't have the guns to take your money yet. That's my favorite. That's my favorite one. Well, that's not my favorite. You can slam the door on a communist provocateur, but you can't slam the door on a communist car. That was my second favorite. You ever seen a Yugo? It's a Yugo joke.
I don't know.
Okay, so I'm explaining to you. I did not know what socialism was as a child. I didn't really know what socialism was when I was 25. I didn't understand it. So I read some books on it, and now I completely understand why socialism will fail. When the government controls the means of production, it fails. Because how will we have a free market enterprise, free market capitalism? You see, that's another thing too with the capitalism. They tell you this is capitalism, that's not capitalism. Socialists are involved in capitalism as well, but instead of one guy making the money, the government makes the money. Okay? So what we see is there is no failure in a product. Like if a comb is shitty, then nobody buys the comb company goes out of business. But if that is a government-owned company, like say the post office is openly competing in the free market. That is a government enterprise that is openly competing in the free market against FedEx, against UPS, against DHL. Why does the government have the right to compete? And another problem, the government, they have to give their raises, they have to give their pensions, their retirements, they have to give them this every 6 months or whatever. And then they got their unions, and they don't have to pay the taxes that FedEx has to pay. So the post office competing with these people, while the people they're competing with have to pay all these huge taxes. They got to pay all these gas taxes for their trucks to go. They have to pay all these retirements and all these things to compete, so their prices have to go up. They have to. That's why I don't like the government involvement, and that's how what I learned about socialism. When the government is in control of anything with the means of production, it's done poorly and inefficiently because they've always got the government. They won't go out of business, but FedEx will go out of business. Another good part about competition. The United States Postal Service did not have tracking numbers until UPS did it. Before, you would send a letter, and when they had no competition, you'd send a letter, and it might get there, it might not. It doesn't matter. There's nobody else you can use. So when competition came in for UPS, they said, oh, we got to be faster than them. We got to be faster. We got to be cheaper. And so when the government is controlling that particular thing, like now we can move on to roads. There's no competition in the roads. So they always cost more money. That's why you see them working real hard in November, December. They have to justify more money next year. So they say we spent $1 billion last year, but we only spent $950 million this year. Well, then I only have to give you $950 million. Well, no, we need that billion. So it's just an example. So they're gonna make it cost $1 billion. That way they can get $1 billion. It's like when they ran the trains. Remember when they put the trains down in the 1800s? The government paid for the trains to get put down, and then they gave it to a business, which is not right. That was a waste of tax dollars. So when the company was making the trains, they made the tracks all crooked and long because they were getting paid by the mile, because the government was paying them by the mile, and they weren't sending anybody out to inspect it. They're just like, okay, here's the money, and and the next thing you know, it's twice as long as it needed to be, because nobody was looking into it because the government has too many people. To get 700,000 redundant employees that don't do anything. This is why I don't like government controlling anything.
Since when? Let me slow you down here.
What
Okay.
you got? School me
So
down.
okay, so you mentioned okay, so you were liberal all
Hmm.
of your life
Still
until
am, to a point, to an extent. Now, liberal and leftist, I know you better just talk about Ben Shapiro. I don't want to talk about a lot about Ben Shapiro, but he makes a solid point on that. He doesn't say liberal and then leftist. The left took over the liberals. I'm still very liberal on things. I noticed that.
sorry, hold on a second. I gotta
That's fine. That's fine.
someone
I'll
at the
get my
door.
phone. My phone was ringing earlier. I don't blame you one bit.
Okay.
All right, we're back. So, okay, so yeah, we're talking about yeah, liberal, perfectly fine. I was a big fan of like George Carlin. He was a classic liberal. And when we see the right in control of too many things like the mega Christians, they're just as controlling as the far leftists. Remember when they were trying to destroy music in the 80s and the 70s? When you had to have people like Frank Zappa and Dee Snider come out and defend music because the right had too much control. The mega Christians, they thought that they could control what people listened to. So you get too far to the right, and then next thing you know, you're too far. That's what the left does too. They do the same thing. It's like the right controls the left, the far right controls the far left. I'd seen a really funny thing. Somebody had made a meme, and it was the Brawny had come out with napkins, and instead of the brawny man with this toxic masculine looking ass, they had girls wearing the outfit that he wore, right? And so this guy said, you put girls on a cleaning product to try to sell the cleaning product to girls, which is still perpetuating the stereotype that women are cleaning. So there's no way you can control the culture the way they try to. So anyway, to answer the question, still liberal, but I'll try to be a centrist between one and the other.
Okay, so hold on a second. Now, you said that you liked George Carlin because he's a classical liberal.
Well, yeah, he would call out stupidity.
All right, so isn't classical liberalism basically a combination of social liberalism and fiscal conservatism?
When yeah, when people think JFK, they think classic liberal. They ignore like starting the Vietnam War and things like that. But you think about, he was against the paper dollar. He said in some speeches, he was against too much corporate control, and he was against too much government control. Well, he's romanticized to be these things. Um, but in reality, he got us in a war, and he left those people in the Bay of Pigs. That's why the CIA didn't like him. But then Dwight D. Eisenhower is his fault anyway. But so yeah, when you think classic liberal, what the idea, the romanticized version of, the romanticized version that said Lyndon Johnson was the one that cared about people. Well, then we learn more about Lyndon Johnson, and that's not true. But the idea is sound. Sometimes you can have an idea and it come to fruition with another person. What I want is the Democratic Party to come up with something of value, and it's not Cory Booker, Mr. Grandstander. It's not slept away to the top Kamala Harris, and it's not Joe Biden who says we're not the party of old white men while he's being an old white man. It's just there's no truth to it.
All right, I'm
Bernie
still not.
Sanders too. Bernie Sanders says we're not the party of old white men as he runs to control the country as an old
I'm
white man.
still not
That is a
seeing the
lie.
substance of what All right, so um, all right, so you're saying you said that the far left has taken over the liberals, right?
Well, they're
What's
just
the
the
difference between
loudest.
far left and liberal?
Well, it's easy. That goes to, I don't want to get in trouble, but when you talk about the infinite genders, when you talk about living a lie, like I said, I want to keep my life simple and not live any lies, and that's why we talked about religion. You can't prove any of those things. None of them make sense. They're all copying each other. It's a lie. I just don't mess with it. If someone's saying they're not what they are, I'm not gonna mess with them. And then the far left pushes that Antifa crazy. Well, they're communists. The Antifa guys are communists. They're far left. We don't like them. Nobody should like them. They think that it's okay to hurt somebody because they have different views from you.
Hmm.
You're not allowed to hurt somebody because they have different views.
All
I
right,
don't
so
like when
then
people get hurt.
What would you think about someone who's more like a hippie? Where would you place them on the spectrum?
Jimmy Carter. If I can't do another Jimmy Carter, here's the problem with Jimmy Carter. Aside from telling us we were 5 minutes from being out of gas and we were all going to die, and he drove the gas prices and hurt the economy really bad, he opened up the ports to Cuba, right? Because he wanted people to escape communism, and which is what Scarface was about, the Cuban crime wave. So Cuba said okay, and they dumped their prisons into Florida, and that brought on the Cuban crime wave. So I don't like that being too far as far as old hippie, because the old hippies are the ones saying that the world's going to end in 12 years, even though our greenhouse emissions are down 3% this year. And most of it isn't even produced by us, produced by socialist countries that don't have regulations. That those are who produce the majority of trash in the sea. Well, you can follow the trash in the sea to where it comes from. The stuff up in California comes from Mexico. What's Mexico? Mexico's socialist. Look at China. They couldn't even have the Olympics. They said, we're not going to let you have the Olympics until you clean some of the smog up. There's a socialist country. These are the ones that are producing the majority of smog because they have their slave labor. They have their $5 a day guys. China, that's why they save so much in labor. That's why all the big corporate a-holes took all their business over there. Well, why did they take all their business? Taxes were too high. I don't blame them at all. I run a business. Taxes are too damn high. We're getting hit too hard with
So
taxes.
wait a minute, you run a business?
Yeah.
When did you start?
12 years ago. Well, 15 years, but 12 years ago is when I hit management.
Hmm.
And we get nailed with taxes. I get
Okay,
taxed
but you
to
were
go to
being
work.
taxed. You were being taxed even back when you were
You were being
more
taxed.
of
Yeah, I didn't realize it.
A Bernie supporter, right?
I was. That's right. And I didn't realize and this is just recently that I'm even realizing that I am a tax is an incentive to not do something like cigarette tax.
Give me a break.
Okay, well, think about the cigarette tax. They want you to drive a car better on gas, right? So they raise the gas tax. Well, I don't want to spend that much money. I'll buy a gas saver. We don't want people to smoke cigarettes, so $5 of the 750 is tax. And it's not just like they do add a lot of tax at the end, but it's he got taxed to bring the tobacco into the country. He got taxed to drive on the roads. He got taxed to sell it. He got that 9% tax on top. Well, no, they don't have that because it's tobacco. They're already getting hit 2 hard taxes. So you don't realize you're getting taxed to work, like you have your Social Security, that everything that gets taken out, which is I'm fine with because there's a lot old people got to be taken care of. That's the liberal side of me. I'm okay with Social Security. I'm okay with me taking care of the old people. I'm fine with that. And then and you see the NPCs of the right, no taxes at all. Yeah. At the same time, if I wasn't getting hit so hard with taxes, I could have a retirement because I get the taken out of my check. I get taxed to drive on the roads for the gas. I get taxed when I go and spend the money. And then next thing you realize, majority of your check is going to taxes, either in the things you buy, in the fuel to drive the truck, in the oil changes to get to work, just being paid, they're taking 20% out roughly, with all your other different taxes, or more if you make more money. So if I wasn't getting hit so hard with these taxes, I would have that extra money for my own retirement. But as it is, it's only a small amount of money. I'm fine with Social Security. I'm okay with that tax.
Hmm.
War budgets, I don't. left or right, we you know we've been in what 144 countries or something. Whether the left's in charge or the right's in charge, we're still in those 144 countries. So that's all just a charade, that we don't want war. We've been in a 17-year never-ending war. So unless you're gonna make that end, they convince people on the right that we need to keep the taxes, but we need to spend them in different ways. You bring me a guy that's gonna take that 8.35% tax that I get hit to spend $1. You get a guy to get rid of that tax, I don't even know what it goes to. You got my vote. It's that easy. But you know what I wanted to talk about? 'Cause you're saying you're still a Bernie guy. Are you familiar with Andrew Yang at all?
Yeah.
What do you think about his guaranteed minimum wage, $1,000 a month or whatever, just for nothing?
The UBI.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
universal
not
basic
really.
income.
I'm not really interested in UBI stuff. I mean, I hear the argument
Uh-huh.
that technology is going to develop so much that people are going to be put out of jobs, but I don't really. I'm not really concerned that
You
it's going
know,
to happen all that soon.
no, I think someone had said it. I don't. I'm trying not to talk about Ben Shapiro, but he made a good point. He made a good point. He said, Tucker Carlson said if he was a president and they made it okay for these semis to not have people in them, semis do all the work and robots load all the machines, and none of it is controlled by a person, that he would say, no way, we got to keep those guys working. But then I realize, and Ben always says, no, a new job will present itself. I'm like, how's a new job going to present itself? To automate something. But then I think about electric cars. Electric cars don't go very far, right? So an electric car, they'll probably need a charging station every 30 miles, 20 miles, maybe less. And while you're at these charging stations, sometimes you can charge for 20 minutes, sometimes it takes 8 hours. So what we see is, as these electric cars move in, they're going to have to charge more. So you're going to have companies where the people that are trying to get somewhere, the planes will be gone. Who's going to want to ride in a plane when a car can just drive you there, right? Your own car, you're more comfortable in it. So we got every 20, 30 miles, there'll be charging stations. And so people have to have something to do at the charging stations. So we're talking about restaurants. We're talking about antique stores. We're talking about whole little pop-up towns like that came up when Route 66 first arrived on the scene, and then there was all these little pop-up towns. That should be a thing, and then we'll see more privately owned businesses, because these will be independently owned restaurants, hopefully, convenience stores, record stores, whatever. That will give those people jobs while still moving into the future with these, I don't call them androids, animatronic or anything, but there's these self-driving cars that'll, be able to do things on their own. So I think that he's right in that sense, that new jobs will open up, but without having to give people money. Because like we learned at the zoo, don't feed the animals. They'll get lazy, won't learn how to hunt. Why do we do it with people? The UBI. So we're on the same page with UBI.
No, we're not.
No universal basic income. You said, yeah. Rewind.
No. I'm not. When it comes to UBI, I think it's a bunch of people who are trying to play up people's fears about the technology that's going to be coming, and so I'm not really convinced that that's going to be happening so quickly, and also I think that the UBI is potentially just a trick to get people to get rid of taxes. It could be part of the conservatives' strategy.
Yeah.
To get us on the UBI and then just reduce it as much as possible until it's zero, and then we would have no taxes and we'd be giving no money to anyone.
I think that the right would manipulate the people that are in the middle and say, this universal basic income, which universal basic income is, it's true. If you're not producing anything in this world, you shouldn't receive anything from this world, right? Yeah. If you people that can't work, they got a bad back, yeah, put them on the Social Security. I'm down with Social Security. If you can't work, whatever. But people that just live off the system, that are getting money from the government, well, the money has to come from somewhere. I think they should come from tariffs, from bringing things in and shipping things out. That's just me. But that money with the UBI, if they're just gonna spend it. So right, so they're just gonna sit at home, wait for their check, and try to live off of it instead of using it how it's designed to be. It's designed to, give you that extra boost. But what's gonna happen? Well, okay, here's a good. What happened to colleges when they started giving out people grants, government grants? The cost went up. Same thing with the hospitals. The cost, but because look at them 50 years ago. People were going. Everybody went to college at like $3,500 a year, and now it's up to, well, you can spend $1 million. Doctor spends $1 million.
Oh, hold on. I wanna. All right, so you're going into a lot of these.
I'm going into how they relate.
You're giving me a lot of statistics.
Examples.
You're giving me a lot of numbers that I can't verify right now.
Okay.
When I really want to talk about your underlying values, right?
Okay. Values.
Where we don't
yes.
have to go into specific statistics and
okay.
what happened in history.
Well,
okay.
yeah, you have to understand history, or else it'll repeat itself.
See, that's where we fundamentally disagree, because
okay.
I don't believe I'm doing anything that anyone else has done before. I'm quite unique.
Okay.
So like, why consider the possibility that there are people who are poor,
okay,
but they're also working hard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, why would you say that if you help poor people who are working hard, they will then stop working and be lazy and just sit around doing nothing? Why would you assume that?
Dr. Umar, he don't like to use the word poor because poor is a state of mind. How are we considering ourselves poor? You use the word poor. Poor is what? Was it you don't have a cell phone? Poor is your car didn't run, you're behind on your bills. A millionaire can drive himself into poverty with making bad money decisions. So when you say poor, I see myself as poor because I don't have $1 million house, but I'm not poor, right? Now, anyone in America is in the, and I know you don't want to hear numbers, is in the 1% of the world. You said Bernie Sanders, the 1% of 1% of 1% of 1%, right? So when he talks about the 1%, there's 7 billion people on Earth. 380 million in America. Everybody has electricity. You understand how great electricity is. You walk up to a pipe and water comes out. They don't have that in all these countries. They don't have electricity. They don't have shoes. And you say that you're poor because you don't have what someone else has. So you're going to have to just define it a different way.
All right, so then who was it that you were quoting before, Omar?
Yeah, Dr. Umar. Dr. Umar.
So then what does he suggest we call people?
Humble. So he called himself. He said he grew up, we didn't want to say he grew up poor, so he grew up humble.
And then he grew up and then he made money and became what?
I think he didn't make a bunch of money. He was trying to put together $3 million. Last time I'd seen him, he was trying to put together $3 million to buy a school, because he was trying to make African American school with teaching African American history, because the systematic the public teaching teaches a white history, and he was trying to teach history of his of his own group or whatever. But what I got from it was how he defined being poor.
Okay,
it's just a state of mind.
Yeah, but what happens when the person starts making a lot of money and becomes rich? What do you call them then?
Bourgeoisie. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't think of, when someone sees somebody with money and they don't like him because he has money, that's a problem inside them. It's not a problem inside the person.
Why don't you just switch it around? Let's switch it around, okay?
Okay. Well, so when you see someone with money, I say there's a guy with money. I don't think that he's the bad guy because he developed because he developed an electric razor that's 10% more efficient than the other electric razor, and as a result, people
That's
bought
not
his
the
electric
issue.
razor, and he made a bunch of money. I can't hate him for that.
You know that that's not the issue. Now, let me
But you're
ask
talking
you.
about old money.
Now, what happens when you see a person who's poor, and I'm
Hmm.
going to use that word because you gave me no alternative.
Yeah.
Humble is not working. So when you see a person who's poor and you assume that they're the bad guy, and you assume they must be lazy, why do you assume that they're the bad guy and they're lazy?
Oh, okay. So I don't assume anyone. No, I don't assume anybody's a bad guy unless they're hurting people. I don't like people that hustle. I don't know, man. See, that's the problem with hustlers. America was built by hustlers. If somebody is hustling the government out of $1,000 a month when he's not really hurting, uh, I can appreciate the hustle, but I cannot like it at the same time because I'm getting taxed. But if he's not hustling, I'm still gonna get taxed. So someone who's living off the government and producing nothing in this world, in my opinion, if you're not producing anything of any kind of value, you sh what is your use? What is the use of someone who doesn't produce anything of any
So
tangible
let
value?
me try to be more clear.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about the people who work hard
Yeah.
but don't make a lot of money. Are you saying that by definition they are not producing anything of value?
Um, no. You can work hard with your hands and not make a lot of money. You can work
Right.
hard with your brain and make a lot of money.
And not make a lot of money.
Or not, yeah, that's right. I see a lot of people, a lot of smart people die poor. Like Laurel and Hardy, they died poor. They did all those free things for the troops. But yeah, no, you can work hard and have what do they call it? Inequality. One thing we see, especially with women, with single mothers, are probably doing the worst. But the government doesn't fix that by giving them money. They don't incentivize the man to stay. As a matter of fact, they will tell you that
I've heard
if
that
you,
before. Okay, but
yeah, well, I'm saying don't no, but they'll give you more welfare if you don't get married. So they'll hustle for more money and not be together. And
how
of
about
course you've
this?
heard it. It's because it's a fact.
No, because
Thomas
I've
Sowell says it
listened
all
to
the time.
people on the right for a long time, and I already
What
have counter argument.
a fact is a fact. What you got?
All right, so again, now you acknowledged that it's possible to work hard and not make
Hmm.
a lot of money. All
Waitresses,
right.
sure. Yep.
Now, what if we help those people specifically? What if we targeted help for them?
Sure.
Would you be against it?
If the government is in control of it, yes. If now the culture can be in control of something, nobody is stopping the culture from putting things together. It's just like the church Notre Dame burns down, and they have $1 billion ready to fix it the next day. You got $1 billion ready to fix it the next day? Well, you didn't have felt there was nothing else on earth that you could have spent that $1 billion on except for this church? That's where I can see that people would be mad at these rich a-holes because of this. I can understand their frustration with when they see that. That is frustrating. It's frustrating for anybody that wants to help people. So I would say, the I said waitresses. I'm gonna bring exclusively about waitresses. Waitresses work hard. They don't make a lot of money, and if they said the fix was no more tipping, instead raise their minimum wage to $9. That's what they said. And you remember 10 years ago they were like they need 15% and they need 20%. Now they're saying get rid of the tipping process and give them minimum wage. Well, they were making more money with the tips, and it's not taxable, which is the real reason. You can't tax cash. I mean, you can put it in your pocket, and nobody knows how much you made. That's what the government really wants. They want to tax that tip money. So it was the idea was helping them, and people would pass the legislation say this is going to be to help them, but in reality, it's so they can tax them, and they can tax the business because the business pays equal amount of taxes. So when the government's control of it, it's always a cluster fudge like that. That's why I use exclusively the waitresses and exclusively, was designed to help them, and it completely screws them, and it screws their employer by forcing them to pay them more money. Well, that means the employer has to raise the costs People are no people will no longer
Maybe.
leave a tip because they're being charged so much because they have to pay these girls double. It means the taxes are double. They got to charge double on for their product. They won't tip them anymore. They said no more tipping. We're giving them minimum wage now. Well, if they were making $45 a night in tips, now they're making an extra $20 and they don't get tipped anymore. And the cost of everything had to go up. So that's why I don't like the government in control of things like that because you always doesn't come out the way we want it to.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
All right. So you seem to have some kind of future sight or something because you seem to assume what's going to happen if you do one action versus another.
I've seen it
And
happen. Is there
I'm
a
not
reason?
so sure that that's what's going to happen. And
Yeah.
you seem to make a lot of assumptions about how people will behave. You
Yeah.
assume that, the restaurant owner is going to raise prices, all of these things. And
Well,
so,
no. I have because I'm in the business. When my costs go up, I have to raise my
wait a minute,
prices.
wait, stop, wait, slow down there.
Okay.
All right, go slowly, okay? Why would you have to raise prices?
Okay. So I pay for 3 employees. The business pays for 3 employees. We have to match the taxes that they pay in the middle of the month, which is about $550 a month for 3 employees. Uh, that means when the employee gets a raise, well, the amount of tax dollars taken out goes up too. It has to, right? You make more money, you make the higher taxes you pay.
Mm-hmm.
That's Bernie's always talking about 1%, 1%. Well, it goes with everybody. Okay, so if the employees are forced to get a tax or forced to get a raise, then the tax goes up too. Then that means my costs go up as well. It's simple. That means, but my products, I still pay the same for them, but I have to now sell them for more to pay the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I say. The prices of the goods, they have to go up. They have to.
In order for you to break even and make the same as before.
Hmm.
All right, so you're holding your pay constant.
Um, no, I'm holding what it costs to pay the bills. The bills cost X amount of dollars. Like it costs 6,000 a week to keep the doors open, minimum. That's before I buy parts, things like that. I gotta have $6,000 a week because we got phones, we got electrical, taxes, advertising, and not even advertising anymore. The employees, the rag company, the uniform cleaning company, the disposal companies, everybody, and they all have to raise their prices too, because when the minimum wage went up, all their employees had wages had to go up. So that means they had to pay more taxes too. So they had to raise their price. So instead of $73 a week I pay to the rag guy, now I pay $81. Had to. Cost of living increase. Now I got to pay $9 more. Okay, this job's going to cost $9 more to repair because I have to pay that bill. Okay, so that means the guy who's paying to get the car repaired, he has to pay an extra $9. What's nine is just the example. So he has to take more money out. Means he has to make more money. Then his boss pays more in taxes because he's paying him more money. That's the problem with raising. You can raise one tax, and the whole world becomes involved. If shipping something from one country to another, if the tariff goes up, they got to raise the price on the product. Have to, because where's the
In
money going to
order
come
in
from?
order to in order to keep
Where's the money going to come from? I mean, you have to charge your customers more. So then the guy down the street, he's not putting in good parts. He's doing it cheaper. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
I
yeah.
get put out of
But
business just to be legal
what I'm
as a
saying
result.
is that you don't necessarily have to keep your price. You don't necessarily have to keep your income, your pay a constant, right? You're
No,
trying to.
we take losses quite a bit, and nobody is there to help us when we take a loss.
All right.
You're right. We take losses more than we turn profits more often, but not as much money loss. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's
So
not. We're not keeping our income constant. Sometimes we don't make any money, but the crew makes money always. We make sure that the employee is paid. So we will take a loss as a business to continue paying employees.
okay, okay. Um. So yeah. So what I'm saying is like there are people who are not necessarily working hard but they make a lot of money, right? And
Yes.
so, is that really is that really fair considering how hard their employees are working? You know, if we could if we could see how hard
Mm-hmm.
employees are working as
Yep.
compared to their bosses,
Sure.
and we see a mismatch in how much they're getting paid,
Yep.
I would like to do something about that.
Sure. Uh, Biggest issue with that, the guy working his back to the bone, shoveling ditches, is making $5 an hour. Example. Working his back, killing himself, hurting his hands, hurting his knees, hurting his back, goes home tired. He only makes $5 an hour. Now, the guy who can remember every profit and loss like an accountant, who can remember every hour, every bit of income, every single thing that happened to a business and see where the losses are and see how to get projections on how to fix it for the next month's income so that we see we lost 2,000 here, we can make 4,000 on this, okay? His hands didn't get dirty, but his brain worked hard. So the way you see him is he's just sitting there doing nothing. But in reality, he used his brain so he didn't have to use his hands. There's fewer people that can use their brain than there are that can use their hands. That is a fact. There's not as many of them out there. So are they worth more? Are you worth more? If someone's easily replaced, have they value the same as the guy who is irreplaceable?
All right, so this is great because now we're getting into the okay. So remember, we already acknowledged, you know, there are people who work with their hands
Hmm.
and don't get paid a lot, and there are potentially people who work with their brains and don't get paid a
Yep.
lot, right? And so
Call those sociology degrees.
and so um, there are also people who work with their hands,
Yep.
work hard, and are also capable of working with their brains, but don't
Yep.
get the opportunity to get
Sure.
a better paying job, right?
Sure. Yes.
All right. So, would you be in favor of searching those people out and putting them in higher paying jobs?
If they oh yeah, if they're capable, absolutely. I love diversity. I love diversity of intellect. I love what do you call that uh what it's a intellectual diversity. Absolutely, I'll take intellectual diversity all day long. Best man for the job, or woman, or
Okay.
anything.
All right. So
Yes.
then, what is your proposal for going around to, you know, all the Americans and
Mhm.
figuring out if they're capable of remembering the figures of, you know, where the money has to be moved, and, you know, working out, you know, learning all the software. What's your what's your proposal for finding the people who are capable of doing that job if they're given the training, and
I
then
don't like.
making sure to put them in the appropriate positions, paying
What are you
more
talking?
job.
You're talking about like a visa lottery where they just grab people out of countries. They come here and then they go to college for coding, and
No,
then you
no,
you get because that's I mean that's what they do with these coding
no,
guys.
no.
They bring them in.
Remember, you had claimed that, you know, there are fewer people who can do the mental kinds of jobs
Sure. Well,
than.
that's why those guys, Asians are as a
It's
group
not.
as a whole have the most intellect. I'm just saying that they do the most. So that's why I say when I say the visa lottery, they go to India, they bring these guys, they send them to college because they were sitting there doing nothing. They brought them into America. They sent them to school for coding, and now they're working in Silicon Valley. I'm saying yes, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them pulling these guys out of a nothing country and bringing them here and educating them. And sure, best man for the job, woman, whatever.
All right, so what I'm talking about is going just among Americans.
Just among
How
Americans.
about we go around
Anyone in America
and we find
can.
the people who are
Yeah,
capable of doing that kind of mental work,
sure.
and then finding a way to put them into a higher paying job,
They
because
already
that's
have
not
that.
necessarily what's happening.
They have that. It's called the internet. That's what you do on the internet. They have websites for that. You pay $45 a month. That's how I ended up in Oklahoma. I was from Wisconsin, and my father, he was good with his hands at his job. He could build transmissions, And he had that skill, he went on a website and said, I have this, I want this amount of money. I'm this good at this job. It was more money. And a guy in Oklahoma said, hey, I'll pay you that amount of money for that job. Didn't need government intervention. He just had to pay a website. Website found the employer for him. As a result, he made more money there, and then saved up his money because he knew he was worth more. So he saved his money, went into business for himself, and became successful. You don't need government intervention for that. People have to know to do it on their own. He knew to find a website to get on to do it.
Okay, so that's a story about someone just doing it themselves, right?
Sure, yeah.
But you still made the claim.
You got to have the
Okay, so
hunger.
would you claim that people are exactly where they deserve to be economically?
No, God, no, not always. Absolutely not. Those people that go to prison for 30 years for crimes they didn't commit. You think those people deserve to be there? No. And another thing too, I don't like that jail system. Don't like the way that's set up. I don't like that. And I know that in the past it's been a lot of the liberals didn't like that, but I do not like that. Now we talked about this on the phone a little bit, which we can get into later. But no, I don't think everybody's in the position they should be in. No, that would be a just world. We don't live in a just world.
All right, so let's make it more just, is what I'm saying. So
Which
let's
yeah.
go around and we go around and we find the hardworking poor people who are
Hmm.
capable of learning additional skills,
Sure.
and we give them the chance to get that education and then get into a job, a higher paying job. How
Now
about that?
education, well, education, you and me are gonna give them an education.
What the heck?
You don't
What
need an you learn you so the business I'm around often are trades. Okay, my last year my sister my wife's little brother graduated from high school, and as a result he got to go to a trade school for free. He became an OSHA qualified electrician with a union job his first year out of high school. First year out of high school, he is in a good union electrician job.
is there such a thing as a union? You know, a good union.
Well, that's arguable, but it's good for where he's at because the union trained him. They spent the money to train him. So they invested into their employees. So yes, we should if there was anything like it, but we can't have the government intervention. I don't
Wait a
want it.
minute. Why are you so? Why are you making assumptions about the government? Why is there
Well,
such a
because you said we
stigma
should
on the
educate
government?
these people. And I say that if someone sees something in a person, that they will pay for their education as the cost of teaching someone how to do a skill. So that's why I said he went to Gordon Cooper, learned to become an electrician, and now he's in a good job at 18, a good job that'll pay. He won't have to worry about poverty unless it's as a result of something he does or car crash or something. So he's set. He can work this good electrician job. He can buy a house and have a little picket fence with kids and puppies, uh, without having to have any kind of intervention, because it was a skill that was needed. But he had to do that on his own. I couldn't find him and get him to do it. He just knew to do it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you're saying that if we have to help someone, then
We have
that's
Social Security
that's
for people that
bad.
can't work.
It's automatically bad. It can't be because of bad luck that people are in their position. Do you believe in bad luck, or
I believe that the harder I work, the luckier I get.
that's really strange. That's strange to me.
Because that would be saying no, there's not really such thing as luck. That's the joke. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah, yeah. And if you really believe that, that's strange. All right, so
Right, that's you have no sense of humor.
well, this is not fun and games for me. All
Why
right,
is it not?
so
It's a hobby.
no, this is people's lives we're talking about.
Well, we're not talking. We're talking most about hypothetical. I had already said that I'm for if people can't work, Social Security. Okay, I've always been for that. I don't mind paying whatever amount that they're saying I need
All
to
right,
pay
but
each
you're
time.
against you are against the government
Hmm.
helping people who are capable of doing the job.
Hmm.
You're against the government helping to get
You were there
them
right
the
now. They're not
education
capable of
that
doing
they
the job. You said that they're capable of learning the ability to do the job.
okay.
Yeah, no, if you're capable, then you find someone who believes in you at a trade school or what have you,
All right. So, okay. So then what is your solution for making sure that we go around and we get all of these people someone to invest in them? Without any exceptions, we need to go around finding all of the people who are mentally capable
Sure.
of doing these better
Uh,
jobs.
I don't know. I can't administer a test for them, a standardized test to decide whether they're good enough. But what I can do is like I said, we went through the same thing. You got on the internet, they said I can do this job. If they can't do the job, then they have to find a business that will invest in them and spend years training them. It's just like, it's just like doctors. Doctors get a bad rap. 7 years of school, 2 years of living as an indentured servant in a hospital to get the right to go golfing 3 days of the week because they've learned a skill.
What are you
But they have to
talking
pay
about?
their dues. We're talking about learning skills and paying dues to learn a skill. You can't just put somebody into a job and
Did you
say
say
that's the right
golfing?
person. Yeah, that's what they do most of the time. Is go golfing.
Where the heck did you get that?
Doctors, doctors.
Yeah,
It's a,
where'd you get that?
from every doctor I've ever met must spend most of their time golfing when they're
Anecdotal?
not in the. What?
Anecdotal evidence?
Yeah, it's anecdotal evidence,
All
absolutely.
right.
But I'm just saying as an example, if you want to get into the healthcare discussion now or not, that's up to you. But I'm just saying that they go through a lot to get to be paid so much, and it looks like they don't do a whole lot. They get paid
It
a
looks
lot,
to me that
but
they do work. I
they
mean,
yeah, no,
they
they
work
put in a
tons of
lot.
hours.
They
So,
earn the money that they say that they're the value of their job. Like they earn it. So I don't know if you're going to discuss the socialized healthcare at all, but I feel that they earn what they say they.
automatically, by definition, you say that people earn whatever they receive.
Well, if they do a bad job, no. I'm saying we're talking about doctors specifically. If they do a bad job, they have a whole bar association they have to deal with. I like that they have that association.
Okay. All right. So do you admit that just because you receive a certain amount of money, that doesn't mean that you necessarily deserved to make that much money?
Ooh, people getting money they don't deserve. That's tricky. I don't automatically believe that. I don't think those stockbrokers deserve the X amount of dollars they get because they can buy
Memorize
and sell
numbers.
within seconds. Yeah, right? Exactly. They
Well,
did. Then they deserve it. You're right.
wait a
You
minute.
got
I'm not right. That's
you just
what are
proved
you
me right on
talking
myself.
about? I was catching you in the contradiction.
You did. You did. It was fantastic. Yeah, no, I contradicted myself. I think you're right. The stock market guys deserve it as much as the guy who uses his brain and not his hands.
It's ridiculous. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that we get around to, as a society,
Okay.
defining what it means to work hard. All right, and
Okay.
then we go around and we see who's actually working hard and who's sitting at their desk,
Nope.
hidden in an
Nope.
office,
Nope. We can't do that.
pretending to be working.
That's the responsibility of the business.
What?
Well, if a guy has someone sitting in an office not doing anything all day, then that guy should be fired. How come the only time you really see that is when it's government employees where they sit around all day and don't get fired?
Well, let's find out. Let's put cameras everywhere.
I don't want to put cameras
Oh,
everywhere.
why not? You don't want to know the truth, huh?
I don't want to spy on people like I don't want to be spied on.
Why?
I'm not going to do something to people that well because I don't want to be spied on. Why would I spy on people I don't want to be spied
Why?
on?
Why don't you? What do you
Well,
care?
so remember Office Space when brings the guy in to talk to the two bosses and they said, "What do you think you do all day?" He's like, "I don't really do much." They brought in people to interview the guy, saw he wasn't doing anything, they got rid of him. Efficiency. That's the beauty of our free market capitalism. Efficiency. The only place there isn't efficiency, government establishments,
And
government
businesses
business. That's right, government controlled business. That's
and
why I was saying
privately
earlier,
owned businesses.
privately owned businesses run on 100% efficiency or as best they can, or they go out of business. That is how it
By
works. So if they,
definition, wait a minute. Hold on.
you
Holy
have
crap!
to.
That's amazing
Yeah,
that you make such a blanket statement
you
like that.
have to. You have to. That's the beauty of free enterprise, free market enterprise. If you have a bad idea, it fails.
No, not necessarily. You can run that.
Absolutely.
You can run that stuff for decades. You know.
Like pet rocks, people bought them.
What I'm saying is, look, you have you have some kind of assumption in place where if there were a completely free market in America, then everything would be 100% efficient, and people would be like they would be making exactly as much as they deserve to make, and the laziness would not be allowed in companies for some reason. I don't
Sure.
believe that's necessarily the case. I don't make assumptions about how lazy or hardworking people are just because they are in a company,
Sure.
as
No,
opposed
yeah,
to a government entity.
that's why the big companies will have you know, they'll have quarterlies where they have bring someone in and talk to them and see if
That's
they're
not
a
good enough. That's not good enough. I want
redundant
cameras.
employee. You don't want cameras.
Yeah. How the heck am I supposed to trust if I work?
Well, they have cameras for employees at a lot of places.
Yeah.
That they
Yeah.
have that already. Okay, well that works for them. It doesn't work for me.
Well,
I'm not going to work at a place where a camera watches me all day. That's just not for me.
why? Why are you special?
Because I
Do
have
you
the right to
actually work
decide.
hard, or are you just pretending?
Well, that's a question of who's looking, I suppose. What do you
Exactly.
mean?
So maybe
Well,
what's
okay,
happening
well,
is
there's a
you're
profit at the end
actually
of the
in the
quarter. That's how
office.
we know.
Wait a minute. You're in the office right now, right?
Yeah,
Where you
sort of.
work, right? And you
Exactly.
have employees that you're working them, and
Now it's Saturday.
meanwhile you're off in your office talking to me. Like,
No,
suppose that
it's
this is a
Saturday.
work hours. Suppose this
No,
is
it's
work
not.
hours.
No,
It could
it's
have
not
been.
work hours. We don't work on Saturdays. If I was true, I would have talked to you on Tuesday,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so no, it's a Saturday.
So if it were on Tuesday, if it were work hours, you
Hmm.
could still get away with this. You could get
I
away
could
with
not.
this.
No, I couldn't. No, I answer phones for a living. I couldn't get away with that. That would be you know, not cool. How am I going to get more business? And that's I got to worry about that. If I don't if I don't get calls in and I don't sell jobs, well, it's not just me that loses um well,
All right.
the
So how about
income.
this?
It's the employees, it's their families, it's their kids. It
All
all
right. So how about
relies
this?
on getting work
How
in.
about how about what about letting your employees come in and answer phones instead, and then you do their job? How about you
They're not
switch
trained
out?
for that.
Well, train them.
I'm not
Are
trained
you
for that.
sure it's Are
I
you
didn't
sure
buy
it's
a
above
hundred
their
thousand
heads?
dollars worth of
Is
tools.
it is
I
it
didn't buy a
really?
hundred thousand dollars worth of tools. I can't do their job. They have a more important. To me, their skill is more important than mine.
Mm-hmm. So they deserve more than you?
They do make more than me sometimes. I'm on commission. They're not. They're paid hourly. They
Okay.
do. If I don't move my feet, then I don't eat. They get paid by the hour.
Okay.
That's how it goes. And if we don't turn a profit in a quarter, then I don't get a quarterly or don't get a Christmas bonus or whatever. There has to be income for the business for me to get paid. It goes like that every single week.
All right.
It's
So then,
good.
how
That's what
about
keeps that. That's what keeps that hunger. We talk about you got to have the hunger. Like, why don't we find people who can do a better job at something? They have to want it. It's a God-given right to
what the
want it.
heck? What the
It's not a
heck?
God-given right for us to go find them and say, "Hey, you and me, I think you're smart. I'm going to take a chance on you." No, he's got to take a chance on himself.
What the heck? That's so ridiculous.
And
All right.
you
Hold
want
on.
cameras
Hold on.
watching people all the time. Big brother over here telling me what's
What?
ridiculous.
Oh my goodness! I cannot believe. Okay. Okay. So I was hearing something good from you for a minute there.
Oh, it was close.
Saying that sometimes your employees make more than you.
Yep.
All right. So
Hmm.
that's good to hear.
Gotta take care of.
Um, because originally you were saying that you work with your head and therefore you get paid more and all that.
But
But
then
that's
sometimes I don't, like you said. People
right.
work with their head and don't get paid more. I can work my head all week and not get paid.
All right. So then how about having that kind of system more widespread? All right.
Yeah. Oh, I'm down for that kind of system more widespread.
All right.
So we should get rid of the post office.
What the heck?
Hmm.
What?
Get rid
Why
of
don't you just try to
that's a
compete with
million
it? How about that?
employees. Oh, because every other business on Earth that's owned by a person has to deal with these worries every single week. Whereas post office is government, they're going to get paid no matter what, and if they're not making enough money, they raise the cost of stamps, or the cost of shipping, or whatever. And if FedEx was put out of business, you can guarantee their price would go up, just like Yellow Cab went out of business. Yellow Cab went out of business in Oklahoma City last week. Uber's price went up $4. They killed the competition. We talk about insurance as the same thing.
All right. So I still want to know why it is that you would be so okay. So you're against cameras,
Hmm.
and you're against going out and helping people who are hardworking and poor who cannot move up.
Who watches the cameras?
Uh, People,
Who,
ordinary people,
who's watching the cameras? Who's watching the
ordinary
guy
people,
watching the cameras?
ordinary people.
I'm saying, but there's a guy. You want to make sure the guy watching the camera is doing his job. Who's watching the camera?
It's
Watching.
not a job per se. You don't get paid to watch the cameras.
We don't get
The
paid to watch.
footage, the
You don't
footage
get paid.
listen.
Yeah.
I'm saying make the footage available so that anyone who has free time can watch it if they want. All right.
Okay.
And then everyone can watch everyone else. And then we can find out who's actually working hard and who's not. And then we
Ooh,
can talk about, you
that
know,
sounds like tyranny. I don't want no
oh
tyranny.
my goodness. That's
Making sure
on
we don't
this
break a
you're gonna
law.
assume
Here's the deal: when you're watching people to make sure they don't break a law, and then you make a ridiculous law, if you become a tyrant, creating unjust laws to spy on people.
what the heck? That's really convoluted right there. So you're thinking that first of all you're thinking that watching people
It
is
wasn't
tyranny.
convoluted to me. What?
You think that watching people itself is tyranny, right? And
Yeah,
then
you're
you
not
turn
gonna.
around
Yeah,
and say that, oh, if I vote for a law that's tyrannical, then I mean, why would you vote
make
for a
it pass a
tyrannical law?
law. Well, now that we're already watching people, we can watch and make sure they're not
Breaking
doing
laws.
drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So who decides if a law is just?
You voted for it.
No, I didn't.
You get to vote
How many
for or
laws we
against the
vote
law.
for? How many laws you vote for? How many laws pass every month versus how many laws you voted for? I don't vote for them. You saying I voted for the people in legislature? No, I
Yeah.
didn't. I only got one choice, if
Did
any.
you vote or not? Did you vote?
Sure,
Do
I
you vote
voted.
in
Yeah,
elections?
I voted for like 7 different judges last year. I voted 7 just I didn't even know their names. I was like, yes, no, because no, there was no advertising on where this judge was good. The judge could have been completely terrible, but there's no. Where are the news sources to tell me if judges are good? That's
Would
their
you like
job.
that? Would
Media,
you
it's
like that?
media's job. What?
Would you like news sources to tell you that?
That's what their job is. That's why it's written in the
Would you
Constitution.
watch? Would you watch that?
Maybe not. That's the problem. But I that if there would be an opportunity to watch the 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 legislature writing bills, they have it. I mean, they have you can go on and watch it, but nobody does. But we don't really get to pick the people. We get to pick between two people, right? Two people. Well, if they're
Hmm.
both equally corrupt, what's the point? Look at. I mean, we can go into the last election.
Let's not. Let's not because
I'm just saying it's an example. You're wondering why I'm doing history stuff all the time. That's not very far history.
yeah, but I'm not going to agree with you on that stuff, and I still want to get back to why it
Okay.
is that you are so against people. Like, for example, I'm watching you right now. All
Yep.
right, so in your
I
time
choose.
it's 3:47 in your time right now. I
Yep.
know exactly that. I know that you live in Oklahoma right now. I see what you're doing at this moment. Is
Yep.
that creepy to you? Is there something suspicious? Are you worried I'm going to do something
Well,
to
I
you or
volunteered to turn the camera on. I actually worked hard to get the camera working. Um, but
what kind of
I
tyranny
made that
might I?
decision. I made the decision to have a conversation with you. I made that decision.
Okay, so then let's
I'm
have
not make I'm
everyone
making the
let's have
decision to not
everyone
have speed cameras watching me to make sure I don't drive too fast in my car. That is also an unjust law. Speed
really.
speed limits, unjust law.
This is ridiculous.
Oh, I'm a libertarian. It's an unjust law.
So
You
people
have
should be
you
allowed to speed.
seat belts. Now, if you're under 18, it's just. If you're over 18, that's an unjust law. I have the God-given
Fascinating.
right to risk my life by not wearing a seatbelt. Why do I
And
get
risk
it?
other people's lives?
Not if I'm alone, just my truck. If I get ejected through the windshield, that was my decision.
If you
That was
crash
my
into
free.
someone else, that's your right.
But I'm gonna crash into him whether I'm wearing a seatbelt or not. The argument is just a seatbelt law.
We were talking about
Speeding
speeding
ticket.
laws.
Yeah, speed limits. Yeah, I made that decision to drive 100 miles an hour. Hold me responsible. Throw me under the jail if I crash into someone in the city at 150 miles an hour. I'm not going to, but speed limit sure isn't going to be what stops me. Fear of the police will stop me, possibly, but that's people are going to make this decision. They're going to speed. They're going to speed whether the limit's there or not.
And
So
even if
it's
there are
unjust.
cameras? All right, so what I'm trying to get
That's the
at
problem with
is
the cameras.
I
don't
want
like.
to put cameras everywhere. I want 24/7 surveillance of everyone so that we can find out who's actually breaking the laws and who's not.
And
and then
then
put
we decide, was that law just to begin with?
so then we can have a system where we elect representatives, and those representatives vote for or against laws. Or maybe we could have a system where we can vote directly on the laws, on the bills themselves.
Yeah,
We
we're
could come
supposed
up
to
with a
have that option. We're supposed to have that option, but nobody shows up. So is it our fault? Yes, it is our fault. If we drift toward tyranny like cameras everywhere, it would be our fault.
cameras everywhere is not the same as tyranny. I want to get you
Sure it
away
is. You're
from that.
being watched all the time.
I'm watching you right now.
I made the decision.
How is this
You
tyranny?
made me go straight Seinfeld. I made the decision.
Is this some small amount of tyranny right here?
No, I can hit that little red button, turn it off anytime I want. That's a choice I have.
So you would do that when you decide that you're going to switch over to breaking a law? You would turn the camera off?
I would, well, no, I would just not want it on me at any time. You know, people who say I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't mind being watched.
Yeah,
No,
that's me.
that's you should just not want to be watched.
Why? I'm not breaking laws.
Would you remember when they when those Chinese guys made those TVs and they were watching people through the television camera? Did you ever see that?
A candid camera? I don't know what you're talking about.
No, they made the televisions, and they're smart TVs. So on a smart TV, you can get
Hmm.
into an IP address, and if you know the IP address, you can watch people through the camera because the camera goes through the Wi-Fi. So
Okay.
you can hack into their camera. Are you okay with that? You don't know
Yeah.
the person watching you. You're okay with someone hacking into and watching you in your house.
I don't get what if you're not breaking the law. I don't see the problem.
Well, these aren't. I'm not talking about this being the police or whoever you're assuming is going to be the air quotations good guy. But what you're okay with them just watching you? Like just random dudes watching you through a camera on your TV, like just watching you? Like all like
The
Ed
only
TV?
fear I can see is if you are constantly doing illegal things. If
You
you're
know the
doing
fear
illegal
I
things,
see? The
then
fear I see is shit in my pants for the world to see. No, you don't want people watching you. That is a no-go.
that's a
No,
strange thing for you to assume about me
Well,
because
you don't want people to see you shit in your pants?
I've been this way my entire life. Insofar as I have not done anything illegal, I don't see what the problem is. And it seems clear to me
Uh-huh.
that the reason people are in favor of privacy laws is because they themselves are breaking laws. It's super clear to me that that's what's happening. And so it's really strange that people
It's
go around claiming, oh, it's not because I'm breaking laws. When in
uh-huh.
fact, of course it is, right? It seems that way to me.
The laws can be unjust, and I will break an unjust law. Everyone should. Like I said, it's a civic duty. They don't teach civics in school anymore. They call it social studies. Civic duty to break unjust laws. There are unjust laws on the books.
All right, so then let's vote them out. Let's vote to change the laws. That's part of
Yeah.
the reforms that I want. So if we change those laws, if we are able to vote to change those laws, then
Hmm.
would you allow cameras everywhere?
Nope.
What the
You know,
heck?
you know why? Because in Chicago, the dead vote, and they're gonna outvote me.
What?
The dead come alive on election day. You never heard that phrase in Chicago?
What are
This has
you
been a phrase
talking
since the
about?
20s. If a bunch of a bunch of dead people vote me out of my vote,
Are you
it's a
talking about
thing.
voter fraud?
Yes, I'm talking about voter
Then why don't you
fraud.
just say that?
I'm an artist.
All right, but you live in Oklahoma. Is there a lot of voter fraud there?
I don't know.
How about
I don't
no?
get to
How
count the
about no? How
ballots.
about
I don't trust
have
it.
you
I
seen
don't.
the
It's
statistics?
it's still a corrupt system in
Have
a
you
lot of
seen the
ways, and that's
statistics about the number of times people have voted illegally, or that an
nope.
actual dead person is actually someone
Have I, I'm not
forged
allowed
the
to see them.
signature?
I mean, I'm not allowed to see this. They use mail-in ballots. They've been doing it for years. There are people who I just heard someone, a professor tell me this a couple months ago, where she was living in Louisiana and nothing was changing in Louisiana because everybody was mailing in their votes to Chicago, Illinois. They were doing mail-in votes and saying that they lived there instead of voting in their own city. So their city's getting worse, and Chicago's getting worse because they're they're voting for things that are outnumbering what the people who live there are voting for. The actual people that are showing up that live there, unless they're felons or they're not allowed to vote or whatever. But that's how we see it fail. That style of system fails right there. So I think we should change the voting law, the way the voting is. Paper ballots, no mail-in votes, and IDs. You should have an ID. I gotta have an ID to buy a pack of smokes. I gotta have an ID to do anything. IDs.
It's not that simple.
It is that simple.
Besides, okay, so suppose I were to give you evidence that voter fraud rarely happens, like
Okay.
10 people in 10 years or 20
Hmm.
years or something. It's really rare. So if I were to give you that evidence, right, and if we were allowed
Hey,
to
there's
change,
someone that's
if
been
we
trying
were
to
allowed
call
to
me.
vote to change the laws that you think
Yeah.
are unjust, then would you allow cameras everywhere?
Are we back? Hey, stop! I can see myself.
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
that's a lot. Okay, so this guy who's called political conservatives, I was hoping we could mesh the calls because I don't know anything about him, but he was looking for people to debate that thought differently from him, and I think he's hardcore conservative, and so it's like, well, I got a lot of complaints about conservatism too, so I could, I was trying to set it up after we were done, but we started so late. So we're talking about the cameras. No cameras. We're just gonna have to agree to disagree on camera.
See, this is suspicious to me. It is
What?
suspicious. Okay, you know that I'm recording this and I'm planning on putting it up on YouTube. Okay, and so
Yep.
everything you say here is supposed to be on the record. All right,
Yep.
something that
Yep.
you're willing to
Yep.
say in public.
Sure. You
Blaine.
got approval.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
So is that possibly why you don't want to to have cameras everywhere? Because you already know that off camera you're doing all these illegal things, right?
I don't
Is that a
want
possible?
people watching my kids because there's too many
Because they would do
perverts out
what?
there.
Because they would do what?
Because
Why
they're
don't you?
gonna fap it out to my kids. That's why I don't want perverts
So then,
watching me on
how about
camera.
making that illegal? How about that?
Making perversion illegal because it's helped so much to stop in the past. They should make rape illegal too, huh? That'd be a good idea. That'll stop it. Laws,
Cameras everywhere.
cameras aren't gonna stop it because
We could
there's
find
too
out
many
who's doing it.
cameras. How many people is it gonna take to watch? I mean, they already record. They
Hey, if you
legal.
just make
They
the
already
footage
record
available.
stuff.
Just make the footage available, and then the people who have free time can watch it.
It's my job to make the footage available now? No problem. Send me a letter. I'll get it done. Checks in the mail.
What do you mean?
Man. What do you mean? I gotta make the footage available. I just have to
What
be
I'm
watching.
saying is that if we had cameras everywhere and we just made the footage available on some website, then anyone who wanted to watch anyone else could if they had the time. We don't have to pay them. It doesn't need to be a job per se.
It has to be a job, or else what's the point of doing anything? What's the
So
incentive?
that you can find out who's breaking laws. And you can report them.
So it's my responsibility to report my neighbor? Like I can watch my neighbor's camera?
Are they breaking
I'm saying, can I? No, we're not on law right now. We're like, who gets to watch the footage?
anyone?
I can watch my neighbors. It's like hardcore. This is like Freedom of Information Act on steroids. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So now you're starting to see.
I
So
hate
if
it.
you're concerned about, some strange people watching your kids and doing
Yeah, like
something
my
illegal,
neighbor.
well, you can make it illegal, right?
Yeah.
And then you can try to go around and find out who is performing this illegal action.
No. No. No cameras.
Why?
If we put the cameras up to stop illegal activity, and there's so many cameras that nobody's watching them except maybe my neighbors are watching me and making sure I'm not up to anything, and I'm watching my neighbors, make sure they're not. Then you know what? Me and my neighbors can have a sit down and say we're not going to watch each other's cameras. But then some weirdo could still watch it, which is illegal now. You're wanting to do something that is illegal now. You know that.
I want to change the laws. I want to change the privacy laws. I want to get rid of them.
I don't like that. You're not gonna get far. You'll get nowhere
You
with an
hope.
attitude like that.
You hope I won't get no anywhere, right?
I do hope that. Oh yeah, that's
Ah,
terrible.
there you
Terrible idea.
go. There we go.
So does that mean we have him in the bathroom too?
Do people commit crimes in the bathrooms?
Well, I assume heroin addicts do all the time. The
All right
Starbucks,
then.
remember they made it where anybody could go in there? Okay, so we're watching people in the bathrooms now,
Yeah.
and you not have any fear of perversion.
What the heck? What?
You're watching people in the
First of all,
bathroom.
we have to find out what the heck you mean by perversion. All right.
Uh, all right, any watching people in the bathroom, I'm gonna consider perversion. I mean, does that
Wow.
mean we have to have a? Does that mean we have to have one in the stall too?
Well, that
I
yeah.
mean, because they could do illegal things in the stall. Oh,
Exactly.
you're wanting to watch people in the stalls.
What the heck?
Oof.
Why did you
You're
think I
not
had
gonna
an
get
exception?
legislation to pass that one. You
You hope.
nobody's gonna vote for
You
that.
hope, right? Say that you
What?
hope that I won't get any legislation passed.
I know you won't. Not in America. Not my America. Oof.
Yeah, yeah. So you hope that won't happen.
I
All
know it
right.
won't happen, or else it won't be called America anymore by the time they have cameras up
What the
stall. Because
heck?
you have to have a camera in the toilet bowl to make sure that nobody is, watching. I'm assuming if you want to catch everything, if you want to do 360, gyro, you're gonna have it, and that's not something I'm gonna be down for. I'm gonna tell you right now.
What the heck?
I
Because
just I
again, you're
I'll
concerned
buy the
about
bad
perversion.
guy. I'm the one
Because
that doesn't want bathroom stall toilets, and I'm the bad guy.
you're the one who's concerned about perversion.
I am concerned about perverts. I hate perverts.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. See, that's a fundamental belief that you have that we will have to go into some other time because that's
Yeah, because we have to decide what is perverted.
exactly.
So,
And
yeah,
of
no,
course,
I'm
we're
down
going to
for that.
disagree.
We should schedule something soon. We're an hour and
Yeah,
a half
yeah.
in now. You got plenty to work with. I had a good time, and we got so I expected to catch a whole range of things, but we got a real narrow bunch of things. But I think we're at the point with the cameras, not even worth talking about anymore, because we're just gonna be
Whatever.
agree to disagree.
Whatever. And yeah, I would like to talk to you, the other guy that you were thinking about.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would be
the
fine to
conservative guy.
talk.
How can we mix the calls? Because he's been calling, been calling.
I don't know how to do that. But maybe I can. We can set it up later.
Maybe I can forward it. All right, all right. I'm gonna try to forward this to you. And I'm gonna give him a few minutes that way because I did try to schedule it after us, but we ran a little while.
All right.
All right, that was fun.
All right. So
Do it again soon. And
yeah, I'll
yeah,
talk to you again later.
we'll figure this out. And if you see other people with the live stream and I got nothing going on, we'll get in together. There are things we agree on. I think we can tag team people on. We'd have to separate the disagreeing things for that particular time. I think it'll be good.
Okay.
All right, thanks,
All
sir.
right. Yeah. Bye.